And joining us from Gaza is Rachael Cummings, the Humanitarian Director for Save the Children. Rachael, welcome back to our program.
Thank you. Hi.
Can we just start off with aid? Are you seeing more aid come into Gaza? And perhaps just as importantly, are you able to distribute it efficiently yet?
We are seeing more humanitarian supplies entering Gaza in the last day, and over the last few days we've seen a lot more commercial supplies entering Gaza, so the markets are becoming fuller, which of course is extremely positive news. But of course we need humanitarian supplies to enter at scale and sustain to allow us to be able to do safe and dignified distributions to children and their families here.
Is it safe yet for you and your teams to move around Gaza?
Yes, it's a lot safer than it has been in the last years, of course. The bombing has stopped. There hasn't been any bombing in the last few days. So our teams are able to move around without the restrictions that we had on their movements before. We're obviously keeping a very close eye. The situation is very new, it's evolving very quickly. So we're monitoring very, very closely in terms of our team's movement, but also access to populations is very, very critical for us to be able to provide the much needed services here.
We're seeing, of course, pictures of people celebrating the ceasefire and some really emotional reunions taking place overnight as well. Have you personally witnessed any of these reunions?
No, we haven't seen any reunions. We're in Deir el-Balah in the middle area. Of course, everybody is watching the news, and there is definitely a cautious optimism to the phase of this ceasefire. People are hopeful, and of course, to Save the Children, with our partners, one of our roles is really to provide hope for children here.
I wonder, I mean, we're just looking at some of these quite emotional scenes now. We've also, Rachael, of course, seen the devastation of what things are like in Gaza too. Is there also, now that the fighting is over and now that there is hope for a ceasefire, have people turned their attention to the scale of the rebuilding task ahead of them?
Yeah, I mean, the scale of the devastation across the whole of Gaza is extraordinary. And just a couple of days ago, I drove from Deir el-Balah down to Khan Yunis, a journey I've made many times, but it's so striking, the absolute level of destruction and devastation. The roads, some of them are impassable. You know, the equipment that's required to come into Gaza, the huge heavy equipment needed to clear some of the rubble, to clear the roads, to allow people to start to go back, to return to their land, to return to their homes and to start to rebuild. But there's a lot of reflection happening in Gaza about the scale of the needs that haven't changed, but also the requirements needed to start to rebuild.
We're just seeing some of the pictures of those just really totally flattened parts of Gaza and some of those aid convoys starting to make their way into the enclave. What would you like world leaders to be focusing on now as a priority?
You know, we need the ceasefire to last. We need this to be a definitive ceasefire after 2 years of atrocities experienced by children in Gaza. We need the borders to open. We need humanitarian supplies to enter at scale and consistently to be able to support communities and children to receive life-saving essential services and supplies.
Rachael Cummings, thank you so much for joining our program again this morning, and fingers crossed that this ceasefire is one that's going to hold.